Teenage Nightmares, Mini Horror Shorts. Story number 1. The Thunderstorm. My name is John, and my story took place in the year of 2003, the year I first started high school. As a teenager, most people would be excited about starting high school, but not me. We had just moved to this small, unfamiliar town, and I didn't have a single friend. To make matters worse, our new house was downright terrifying. It was old and had a creepy history. One night, I found myself completely alone in that old, eerie house. My parents were stuck at work because of the storm raging outside, and wouldn't be home for at least a few more hours. I tried to settle in and watch TV to calm my nerves, but it was November, and the sun would be setting soon. The thought of being alone in that house after dark filled me with dread. As the sun dipped below the horizon and darkness enveloped the house, an eerie silence settled in, amplifying the unsettling atmosphere. Suddenly, the TV shut off on its own. I hurried to turn it back on, but instead of the show I had been watching, a horror movie was playing, a movie I definitely hadn't chosen. I figured it must have been the storm interfering with the signal. It was a comforting thought, much better than the alternative. I switched the channel back to the documentary I had been watching and tried to settle in for the night. As time passed, a creeping sense of dread began to grow inside of me. I can't quite explain it, but it felt as though someone was standing right above me, looming menacingly. I jumped to my feet, scanning the room, and yelled at whatever was in the house, demanding it to leave me alone. But I only made things worse. The moment I started yelling, my room began to shake violently, as if an earthquake had struck. I glanced around frantically, but saw nothing. Then, without warning, the room plunged into complete darkness. Every light in the house went out. I stood frozen, heart pounding, terrified, waiting for something to reach out from the suffocating darkness. Then, my worst fear became reality. I heard footsteps drawing closer, echoing through the darkness toward me. Fortunately, my Nokia cell phone had a built-in flashlight, its only useful feature besides the classic snake game. I quickly turned on the flashlight and pointed it into the darkness where the footsteps had been coming from, but there was nothing there. I'll admit, I was completely freaked out, but I had nowhere to go and no friends to turn to. I was stuck. So, I did what anyone would do in that situation. I grabbed a Bible and ran straight to my room. After about 30 minutes, I finally felt brave enough to leave my room. But the second I opened the door, a heavy, suffocating presence hit me, like something was watching from the shadows. And then I saw him. He was standing at the end of the hallway, looming in the darkness. I'll call him the tall man. The tall man had no facial features, just an empty, featureless face. His body was twisted and contorted, positioned unnaturally, like a lifeless corpse. As I stood there, frozen in place, he suddenly began to crawl backward on all fours, his movements jerky and unnatural. I couldn't take it anymore. I collapsed to the ground and passed out. When I finally woke up, my parents were standing over me, visibly freaked out. They asked me what had happened, and I told them everything. The next day, they called a priest to bless the house. It worked for a few weeks, but soon things took a turn for the worse. In the end, we had no choice but to move. But it's too late. He's already attached, though I don't see him often. He pops up from time to time, and there's nothing I could do. When he does show himself, he tells me he's going to kill me one day, and I just smile and nod because he's probably right. To the tall man that follows me around, please, leave me alone.